Hey guys, what's up? It's Katie and I'm back with another Marvel Contest of Champions video. And thanks to the CCP, I have early access to the Red Goblin Champion Spotlight. So I'm super pumped about this guy. He looks kind of really cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at his abilities, his stats, and what he's got going on. So who is Red Goblin? Well, in a desperate move to regain his lost connection to the Green Goblin persona, Norman Osborn bonded with the Carnage Symbiote. The result was Red Goblin, a demonic creature with a limitless thirst for death and unmatched hatred for Peter Parker. So I love this. I love that they, gave it like this. So I'm pretty pumped about this. So let's take a look at Red Goblin's mechanics. Now, Red Goblin's gameplay is centered around comboing into his special attacks with different basic attacks to generate buffs. When launching Carnage Bombs with his special 2 or heavy attacks, he inflicts debuffs on his opponent based on his active buffs. When his opponent is close to defeat, Red Goblin activates Frenzy and becomes even stronger. The potency and threshold to activate Frenzy intensifies with each defeated opponent. So it's kind of like he's got like a little bit of maybe Carnage mixed in with X-23 with her Frenzy. So I'm interested to see how these mechanics are going to play out. Now we will get a little more of a closer look at these when we go over his basic ability. So let's take a look at his base stats. So he's got decent health, right? He's not very squishy. His attack's okay. And it seems like Kabam is really sticking around this 10-6-40 when it comes to PI. At least that's what it seems like for these last couple champs. All right, so he is going to be a cosmic champ that is going to have True Sense, Energize, Fury, and Aptitude. So this is another champ that we've seen with Aptitude. So let's take a look at his strengths. So he's got an armor break. So for each Fury buff on Red Goblin, his Carnage Bombs apply 1 armor break. If he stacks only Fury buffs, he can easily strip away any armor up buffs from his opponents. So that's not gonna, though, work against champs like Colossus, who, remember, can only be armor broken by tech champs. And then he's got True Sense. So after launching a special 3 or dropping his opponent through a health below a health threshold, Red Goblin gains a very strong duration True Sense, preventing the activation of miss or auto block. So that is really cool. That helps out with those pesky champs like, like Mcoc, Medusa, Darkhawk, those sense. And then this whole thing with Spider-Verse. So basically, it's kind of like Venom, right? Spider-Verse champs cannot evade him. So this is another kind of answer to those pesky evaders if, per se, maybe you don't have Venom. So now that we talked about his strengths, let's take a look at his weaknesses because he does have some. So, and this kind of comes into play when we're going to be fighting him in the monthly event quest. So we're going to want to bring in a champ that nullifies. So, a lot of your mystics nullify, which makes sense too, since he's going to be cosmic, you're going to want to bring in a mystic. So, champs like maybe Sim Supreme or Black Widow Clairvoyant, or someone who can put a stagger on, maybe Doom. These are all going to be really good options. Scarlet Witch, now that she is a 5-star. Purify, if you can purify his debuffs, so, champs like Night Thrasher, Mole Man, Killmonger, that sort of thing, and regen. So if you bring in a champ who's going to regen back up from that low health threshold that would make him go into frenzy mode, that's going to kind of mess with him too. So again, Black Widow Clairvoyant, she's got that lifesteal, right? So I feel like Black Widow Clairvoyant is going to be a pretty good answer to this guy come the monthly event quest, but hey, I could be wrong. Okay, so now that we looked at his strengths and weaknesses, let's take a look at his abilities because he's got some cool ones. Now, he is immune to Incinerate and Power Burn, so you're not going to be able to Power Burn him, but it doesn't say anything about Power Drain or Power Lock. So I feel like we'll be able to do that. It might just be Power Burn, but that could be a question for Kabam. And then his he reduces the effects of, again, passive evade from Spider-Verse champs. And then he's got this persistent Bloodlust. So after winning a fight, gain 1 Bloodlust for the remainder of the quest. If defeating a #Spider-Verse champion, gain plus an extra 1, and then he loses 2 when he's defeated. So he's gonna have persistent charges. These are gonna be his persistent charges. So they can stack up to 5. So I'm interested to see how those are going to play out. So let's take a look at this Frenzy, right? Because I talked about that. So while the opponent has less than 15% health remaining, activate Frenzy. Each Bloodlust increase increases this threshold by a flat 10%, reaching 65% at max bloodlust. So when we fight him in the monthly event quest, we're not going to want to lose to him. At least a lot. Frenzy also triggers a True Sense buff, bypassing the effects of miss and auto block, like we talked about earlier, and then gains attack rating. Additionally, gains attack rating for each bloodlust. Each stack suffers from 15% reduced potency. So it does suffer from diminishing returns, but it can stack. Now let's talk about these symbiote buffs, because this is where he kind of like ties in a little bit with Carnage, right? So he's going to activate, after a special attack, he's going to activate a buff based on the last attack that is launched. So if you end with a light attack, you're gonna get energized. If you end with a medium, you're gonna get fury, and if you end with a heavy, you're gonna gain aptitude. So that's going to that's going to increase your fury, precision, and armor up potency. So kind of keep that in mind. Now, these are what you want to keep in mind when you're going to be launching specials, because they're going to dictate what you get out of him, kind of like how Carnage is, right? So he's got a little bit of Carnage elements mixed in with him, as he should, since he is bonded with the symbiote Carnage. At least that's how I'm looking at it. Okay, so now let's take a look at these Carnage Bombs. So this is after heavy attacks and the special too. So with the Carnage Bombs, each energized buff inflicts power drain, draining 10% max power over 15 seconds. So that's kind of tied in with Green Goblin. Remember, Green Goblin can drain your power as well. Each Fury inflicts armor break, reducing armor for a specific amount for 15 seconds. Now, the key to his damage comes from being able to armor break. So kind of keep that in mind. And then all other buffs inflict incinerate. So he is another champ that inflicts incinerate, much like Green Goblin's super bomb can. Now, heavy attacks, Carnage Bomb debuffs inflicted by this attack have 65% reduced duration. So we need to kind of keep that in mind. Now let's go ahead and take a look at these special attacks, right? Because he's going to be really reliant upon them and the attacks that lead into them. So the first one, the special one, is Symbiote Rushdown. Okay, and Symbiote Rushdown is all 5 hits deal a burst of direct damage equal to 100% damage dealt, potency increased by 100% for each unique debuff on the opponent. So you want to get your debuffs on when you launch this so that you can increase your attack. And then it also inflicts a shrapnel blast, which is the incineration damage, over 20 seconds. Now, this is a good way to kind of quickly add your debuffs on and that sort of thing. And to get the energized buff, then kind of what you want to do is go up to a special 3, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So now let's take a look at the special 2, Goblin Onslaught. So the Carnage Bombs inflict Carnage Bomb debuffs, and then all 3 hits deal a burst of energy damage. So it seems like a lot of his attacks are going to be energy based, right? So this one is best going to be suited to be launching after a medium attack so that you can, get the Furies that will apply the armor breaks, and you'll get those really sweet big numbers. But we'll have to wait and see. I never really quite know how a champ is going to be just on paper. I like to see how they're going to be when you actually get your hands on them, right? Right. Okay, so now let's take a look at a special 3, Seething Madness. So it activates Frenzy for 30 seconds and inflicts 7 random Carnage Bomb debuffs with 50% increased duration. So this is where it's at. So basically, like, you want to get from a special 1 to a special 3 and then probably to a special 2 is what I'm assuming. Now, I could be wrong. We won't exactly know till we get to play with them, which I cannot wait for. So, but we'll have to keep this in mind. So now let's take a look at his signature ability and see if he needs it or not. So Norman Osborn and the Carnage symbiote form a powerful bond while Frenzy is active. Special attacks generate +1 symbiote buff with 35% reduced potency. So I'm going to say he probably needs his Awakened ability. I think it's going to help him out a lot. So I'm thinking he is going to be one of the ones that does need his Awakened ability. Now let's take a look at his synergies. He's got this one here, Self-Centered, with Green Goblin. Okay, and so with this one, and Carnage, excuse me, he gains 1 Bloodlust the first time Red Goblin wins a fight in a quest. So this one's going to be really beneficial to have, and it's actually really good for Carnage as well, because when genetic mutation ends, generate 1 additional permanent buff after reaching max permanent buffs. Future symbiotic creation buffs last 10 seconds. Okay, and then he's got one with Venom. So, and this one's not bad because if you do end up losing a fight, you actually only lose one less bloodlust when defeated instead of 2. And then Venom reduced the duration of Venom's Clintar buff by 30%. So that's always super helpful. And then he's got Hatred with Symbiote Spidey. So this one is going to increase his buff duration by 30%, and that's a good one. And this one's actually really good for Symbiote Spidey because the Special 2 creates a non-stacking Fury buff, granting 5% attack for each armor break on the opponent lasting 20 seconds, while active heavy attacks inflict 1 additional armor break. So that is actually really good for Symbiote Spidey. I'm kind of interested to play with that and see how good it actually is. All right, and then he's got Osborn to be wowed with Iron Patriot. While Frenzy of his active Fury and Energized buffs has 15% increased potency, but look what it does for Iron Package. Arc Overload grants a Fury buff, increasing attack rating by 300% for 30 seconds, no longer burns out Iron Patriot's suit, and can be reactivated after a 60-second cooldown. This is huge for Iron Package. Like if Kabam were to buff Iron Package, this is what Iron Package should have as a buff. So I'm kind of interested to see how this plays out. I'm not gonna lie, I think it's gonna be kind of fun, and maybe not make Iron Patriot so well Iron Packagey, we'll say. And then he's also got one Symbiote Consciousness with Carnage, Sim Supreme, and Venom the Duck. So each symbiote on the team grants 15% increased crit damage rating. And then he's got the Nemesis with all the Spider-Man, with the exception of Cosmic. So with Classic, Starkey, and Stealthy. And so all champions gain plus 6% attack. So that's, you know, not a bad one. But that is it for the champion spotlight for Red Goblin. Guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of this guy. Do you think he's more of a mixture of Green Goblin, Carnage, or is he something else entirely? How do you think he is going to be based on what we see on paper? Do you think he's going to live up to it, or do you think he's just going to be a dud? Let me know in the comments below and let's discuss. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you guys liked what you saw and you want to see more, please remember to like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and hit me up in the Discord chat. Thanks, guys. Bye.